All right, my name is Robert Hogan. Hopefully today David Kobe will be joining us as well at some point from Cradlepoint. I am from ByteSpeed, and today we're going to be talking about Cradlepoint for K-12 and how we leverage the wireless WAN for equitable remote learning. At any point, if there are questions, please just type in the question button at the bottom. You can ask a question and I will try to answer it live. If I can't answer the question, I will make sure and get back to you via email with an answer. And this session is being recorded, so you would be able to come on and watch this at a later date and have access to all those questions and answers. So first off, first thing you should know about Cradlepoint is that they are the market leader worldwide in enterprise WAN with 4G, and they have solutions already that are moving into 5G. So 50% of the Fortune 100 companies, 90% of top public transportation authorities. They were founded in 2006, and today they have over 500 employees. So 20,000 customers worldwide. The big takeaway from here is in moving forward with this and not really having a big understanding of maybe what you're wanting to do, you really need a company that's proven in this space, and Cradlepoint is very proven in this space, a market leader, and you can feel very confident. You know, and they're also the second largest cloud managed networking company in the world. So just a very safe investment going with Cradlepoint. So how can all households learn from home? So one of the important things that we look at, I'm a former IT director. One of the very important things is I need to be able to send this home with students, and they need to be able to just plug it in, and it needs to be able to work, right? They don't have to plug anything in special. They don't have to go to some website and enter credentials. It just needs plug and play day one connectivity. All the policies need to be centrally managed. I want it all connected to the cloud. I don't want the student to be able to take home a device and reboot it, find some YouTube video that lets them do a factory reset and be off and running doing whatever they want. I want everything managed from one place, cloud management. Content filtering, that prevents malware or virus installation, carrier class connectivity, high performance, and management that's scalable. So I can create groups instead of having to log into every single device and configure it individually. I need a remote connection. The two basic things that we offer, we have a very entry-level solution that's very inexpensive called the IBR 600. It's listed here. And then the IBR 900. The main differences, the 600 is kind of a plastic device. It doesn't have the metal hardcore backing. So it's a little more breakable, but it's still enterprise grade hardware. And the 900, like I said, is metal, takes a little bit more of a licking and keeps on ticking. And the big difference is if you go with the 600 entry-level solution, you have to find a third-party solution to manage SIPA compliance. So you could tunnel it back to your main line and be able to SIPA filter that way. So if you go with the 900, SIPA filtering can be built in to the solution, to your Cradlepoint bill, all one device, easily manage it from NetCloud and everything. That's the biggest difference. Another thing you can really get around some problems that you have in your landline services with this connectivity as well. If you go back to your main office, have a Cradlepoint device there, it can provide failover. So if you have your main connection goes down, you can instantly fail over to a cloud provider, to a Verizon or other carrier, and not lose total connectivity. You can have your admin services go that way, and it spins up almost instantaneously, or at least within a day or two, as opposed to where a landline services can take months to deploy. They can physically be cut. They have a lot more failure. So using Cradlepoint also as a secondary connection to the web is also a great way to use it. So what Mini provide and what ByteSpeed provides, what the industry out there is kind of leaning toward is more of this jetpack. Every student has some kind of device or a USB hotspot or something that plugs into every single device, like a one-to-one internet type of solution. The biggest issues are those solutions were never really designed for that. They're consumer grade hotspots. They were meant for you to take on the road to your hotel room and have internet while you're in your hotel room or on the road. They weren't designed for student use. They weren't designed for somebody that's possibly going to go in and try to factory reset it and get around anything that you have on it, or remove the SIPA filtering while they're doing whatever they're doing. They weren't designed with those things. So they have very basic security. They're unmanaged, so individually you can manage them, or maybe somebody else can manage them, but you have no way of creating a group and having everyone aligned to that standard, having an absolute knowledge that it's SIPA filtered, and being able to control everything about it and reports on the device. So you can literally go in and see how the devices are being used. They're breakable, they're easy to lose, and they're a per device solution. So for every Chromebook or whatever that goes home, it has to have a device with it. What we provide at ByteSpeed with Cradlepoint is an enterprise grade hardware. So it's ruggedized, it's very purpose built specifically for providing this type of content. It has enterprise class security. It has cloud management. So you can do an entire fleet of devices under one NetCloud login. You can manage them all. You can create those groups, makes it very easy to deploy and make changes on the fly to things. One thing that happens in districts at times is we send something out and we forget one thing. Maybe it's the first year we did a one-to-one rollout and we send them all out and then we say, oh goodness, we forgot this. And then you wish you could just make one change to all of them. You can do that with cloud management and group management. Even if the devices are scattered out throughout your city at the student home, you can still go into NetCloud and make changes. You can extend hardware and software, and you have a per household solution. So I'm a former IT coordinator in my district. We usually had about 3 students to a household, 2 to 3. You know, we had 4,800 students, but we only had 2,200 households. So the household solution can save you a lot of money on a device solution, depending on how your district looks in that way as well. So will I have a question. I'm going to pause here for a minute. Will Cradlepoint allow multiple students in a home to distance learn? So yes, that is the exact hope, is that using this Cradlepoint solution and having it be a household solution as opposed to a single device-based solution does allow multiple students in one home to distance learn at the same time. So you can provide one household, and if there's 5 or 6 students in that household, they can all get onto the one place. And this way students don't have to drive to a certain area and sit in their car. The mobile bus solution is a good solution, but I think in many ways this could be a better solution because it makes it easier on the parents, it makes it easier on the students. You don't have to have a bus driver that goes out and starts a bus up at 6 o'clock or whatever. It's an easier solution to just empower that whole household for remote learning. So these are some of the packages that we have with Cradlepoint and ByteSpeed. So the 600C is our initial package. It's the essentials, it's good performance, it's the lowest price point. These are MSRP list price. So when you see this list priced over here, those are MSRP. So your price would be lower than that if you were to get a quote. But like I said before, the 600 The only real big caveat to that is that it is SIPA filtering is not provided in line. So if you want to tunnel the 600 through to your main district office for that SIPA filtering, that is a possibility. Otherwise, there are multiple vendors like Asavi that can provide the SIM card itself with filtering capabilities so that you can still provide SIPA filtering, but there is an extra fee for that. So that's the biggest caveat. The other thing would be, this is a 150 megabit backend modem. The 900, which is the entry-level solution that has built-in SIPA filtering, actually has a 600 meg modem. So it's quite a bit faster. So if you knew you were going to have multiple, like 3-4 students in the home, the entry-level 600 meg modem would be probably the way to go. I have another question. Do you help us with the SIPA filter connection with the 600? So yes, we can. So we can help either provide the quote from a third-party company if that's the way you want to go, or if you just want help getting tunneling back to your district office to provide the SIPA filtering. Either way, we can help to make sure that you're providing some form of SIPA filtering that you're comfortable with on the Cradlepoint solution. So we will help with that. Package 2 is that 900 with the 600 meg essentials. It has the inline SIPA filtering, and it's the moderate price point. The 900, 1200 meg is the only real difference there is that you get double the back end bandwidth on the modem. So you have a 1200 meg modem as opposed to a 600 meg modem for a little bit more increased price. So the Cradlepoint solutions in the school bus. So we do have the Cradlepoint solutions that hook up to the school bus, that have the antenna. You can connect up to 100 students at a time. They access LTE with any major carrier. It's one of the nicest things about Cradlepoint is that they're totally vendor agnostic with carriers. So if something works really good in one area of your city and one works really good in a different area of your city, having multiple carriers doesn't force you to have multiple solutions on your buses. You can use the same inline solution from Cradlepoint and just put different SIM cards in those buses where they work. Even most of these routers even have the possibility of doing multiple carriers so that even if you're going between 2 or 3 locations, you can have multiple SIM cards in one router so that it doesn't matter where you're at. Curtis has a question, will the management allow us to control what devices can connect to the wireless? Basically, if we provide these devices to households, can we make sure that you're being used for school provided devices only and not streaming devices on a smart TV or Netflix? Yes. So you can do that in multiple ways, or you can use all of the ways. So you can provide only certain devices could access the internet, you know, the SSID that you're providing. And you can also limit what types of traffic are able to be gone over that network. So apart from SIPA compliance, you could also say, I don't want it used for streaming media. I don't want Netflix to run over it. I don't want Hulu to run over it. But maybe I do want to allow YouTube. So you could block the other ones and allow YouTube. So it's very configurable, not only what devices are allowed on the network through the SSID, but also you can control through the filtering what types of information are able to be streamed over that internet connection as well. With regard to the buses, they have about a 300-foot radius. So there is a note here that says environment can greatly vary distance. As with any wireless Wi-Fi type technology, the environment plays a huge role in how far this can go. So if you park on one side of a concrete embankment, it's obviously not going to go very far through that big concrete embankment. trees, buildings, structures, those things limit the radius that the Wi-Fi can travel. But in general, in a perfect world, about 300 feet is what you would get on average without all those other major obstacles being considered. All right, and I think we have David here now, so that's great because now we'll have a NetCloud demo at the end instead of me just sitting here nodding my head. So that's thank you, David.
No worries, guys. Sorry about that. So yeah, as Robert mentioned, really a lot of the power in our solution is going to be the flexibility of the Cradlepoint devices, and obviously the ruggedness of the hardware, but also the being able to manage these devices and third-party devices that may be behind them with our cloud-based solution called NetCloud Manager. And when, Robert, obviously I'm going to have you monitor any questions that pop up and shout them out at me, and I'll answer them as I go here. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And the subscription model that we're based on with our products is with our mobility products and branch routers, you're going to have 1, 3, and 5 year options. With IoT devices like the IBR 600C that Robert mentioned, it's going to start at 3 years. It's going to be 3 and 5 year options. Okay, so this kind of ensures the longevity of the product, as well as you also have full control over when the notifications you get on renewal needed, as well as being able to kind of move licensing around as needed as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump in here. You'll be greeted with this page right here. Your root admin can assign additional accounts as needed for other people who may need to go in and make changes to routers, or potentially, just even look and see what's going on if there's an issue. So with that, you log in. We do support multi-factor authentication using, Okta, Microsoft, using Google Authenticator for a couple things here. So we're going to go ahead and use an IBR 900, and I'm not going to take you through the entire thing because there's so much configuration you can do on these routers and these devices. But really what I'm going to focus here on is our SIPA filter. It's very easy to deploy, assuming you have an advanced license assigned to the device. And you can check that simply by clicking on the name of the device, and it will take you to another page where you can see the license tab right here. Click on that, and it will tell you, this is what I've got. If it just says NetCloud Essentials or NetCloud Essentials for mobile or NetCloud Essentials for IoT, you would then be able to click change the license. Now, if I do that here, I'm going to downgrade. I'd be removing the advanced license, but I would just click upgrade it. If you had an advanced license available, it would then go to that device. And same goes if you needed to move this advanced license to another device, you could, within the same product family, of course, a mobility product in this case, you'd be able to downgrade the one, then go back, and you'd have the upgrade lit up on the new and the other one, and click upgrade, and it would assign it. So this gives you a tremendous amount of flexibility. Now let's talk about protection of the users themselves. It's very simple to add. Once you have the advanced license, it's very simple to add that SIPA filtering by simply clicking on the device, going to configuration, edit. It'll bring you to, as you can see, this is very similar to what you would see if you were logging into the local GUI, with a few exceptions. Obviously, go to security, cloud-based security, and here is the CP Secure Web Filter. That's ours, okay? That is the Cradlepoint version. If you're using an IBR 600C, like Robert mentioned, you'd have to do a third party or VPN, tunnel it back to your school's head end where SIPA compliance filters can be added onto the firewall there, okay? Which is simple to do. But for our purposes, obviously, you can use Zscaler Internet Security, which again is a product we can we can sell, and that would apply to an IBR 600C. Obviously, the Zscaler Secure Web Gateway is direct from Zscaler, and of course, Umbrella Open DNS to all ways to skin this cat, as it were, to gain that SIPA compliance. But
David, we do have one question that just came in that said, can ByteSpeed help a school district manage a large district learning deployment? So the answer to that is yes, we certainly can help, both from if you need help pre-deploying or you need help along the way in making changes and helping with that. ByteSpeed and Cradlepoint would be there to help you with the NetCloud and any pre-staging that needs to be done. I don't know if there's any way you could show like a tenancy or the groups. You'll get to that as well.
Yeah, I'm actually going to get to that.
So.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So it brings up an interesting point. For ease of deployment, we have a feature in NCM called groups, and it's a way to create a cookie cutter configuration. So let's say you know that all these buses, all these devices that are going to be deployed in buses or sent home with students in their backpacks are all going to have the SIPA compliant filter. Okay. You can do that by creating a group. Now, all the same product have to be in the same group. In other words, you can't mix and match IBR 900s and 1700s and 2200s into one group. One single group has to all be IBR 900s or IBR 1700s. Okay. But either way, it keeps you from having to go through and configure a filter on hundreds, possibly thousands of routers, where it could open you up to potentially missing something. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. Instead of doing this here, because it's going to look identical. All right. So if you go to groups, I have a group already created for this generic IBR 900 I'm testing. So if I wanted to apply the SIPA filter to that, I could simply go to checkmark that group now, go to configuration, edit. Now this also assumes that you have the advanced package on every router in that group. Okay. Go to security, cloud-based security. I'm going to choose the CP Secure web filter. I'm going to make any alterations here that I feel are necessary. So my default action is to allow traffic, obviously. Anything that's uncategorized, in other words, traffic that hasn't necessarily been entered into WebRoot, which is the partner that helped develop this. It's using their database. If it's not falling into a category within that product line, you can choose to go ahead and allow it or block it. That would kind of be up to your discretion. I would say that in the instance of children, you would want to block that. Okay. Now, the web filter policies is very simple. We're going to create it bus hotspot. Okay. You can go ahead and choose safe search, which might be an added benefit to you. And then you can choose to apply this to every single network on the router, i.e. VLANs, or a specific one. Okay. Now, in the case of a bus hotspot, you're likely only going to have one active network. We'll go ahead and apply that to my one I'm doing here. I called it Voyager. Save. Now, policies. You can go through and manually block or allow certain policies, or in the case of SIPA filtering, we have one pre-built. Choose SIPA compliance. Now, if you need to make exceptions to that, it's very simple to do. So let's say confirmed spam sources, you want to go ahead and protect them from spam, general harmless spam for the most part, but you can go ahead and just double click that and it'll go ahead and block and add that blocking to that category. Okay. And let's say this was a school bus or a hotspot that was going to be used by a high schooler. They may, or let's say, a high schooler, you may want certain things unblocked for a high schooler to be able to access for research purposes. They're running a term paper, and let's say it's on drug use, for example, for a science or health class. You can go ahead and unblock that, okay? But for now, you can go ahead, we'll just keep it blocked. And then let's say you want to make sure that nobody is jumping on and streaming Netflix and YouTube and chewing up an otherwise metered connection with, which is what LTE is going to be. You know, you're going to be doing a bulk plan of, 100 gig, 20 gig, what have you. You want to go ahead and block streaming media in this case, and go ahead and hit save. And then any custom categories you want to add. Okay, let's say you want to block streaming media, but you want to allow, say, YouTube for whatever reason. You can go ahead and add, let's call it YouTube, host www.youtube.com. Go ahead and hit save, save again. And now if you go back and you look in here, all the way at the bottom, you're going to see YouTube was added and its default state is going to be allowed. Okay, so that's good. Save it. Go ahead and hit save. The best practice is always hit every single save button that you see. Now I can go ahead and commit those changes to that router. And then within a few moments, you'll see that IBR 900 is now going to take on those changes, okay? Then if you had multiple IBR 900s that you also wanted to reflect that, they would all be on, show as online here. You would just tick mark them, and then let's do a real quick check here. Hit move, and you would just move it into that group. And then if you had any other additional configuration to do, like if you're doing any unique Wi-Fi SSIDs for each given bus, you could then go and touch each individual router and make those changes accordingly. I would suspect, though, that best practice, unless you have multiple buses parked within the same area, you could do the same, make them all the same, and then obviously to make that easier for you, do that at the group level versus the individual config level. The only place you would potentially have to do an individual touch, if you're doing that VPN method of getting SIPA compliance with something like an IBR 600C, where you're not using Zscaler, you would then obviously, according to your first rules of networking and VPN, is each router would have to have a unique LAN IP addressing scheme. So that would mean you would have to go and touch each individual router to make that change. Okay, but it's a very simple change to make in an individual level. Go to each one, hit configuration, edit, networking, local networks, local IP networks, and here it is. Hit edit, IPv4 settings, make that change here, hit save, commit changes, done. And then move on to the next one. Okay. That's all I had as far as relevance to SIPA compliance. Robert, is there anything additional you'd like me to cover?
No, I think that covered it. I think that covered groups and most of the things that I wanted to talk about for NetCloud. I think just through some of the other slides, if you want to add anything, that'd be good. But if you're ready, I could take back over.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right, so school buses, the other thing that school buses can do is they can show this kind of GPS data, and that's available through NetCloud as well. So we will go on to the next slide. So security and IoT. Cradlepoint devices are also very ideal for connecting all your intelligent devices at your school. So if you have these Cradlepoint devices at your school, you can connect up your digital signage, your video, everything like that. One of the really cool things when you do have Cradlepoint on your network, that I see as an amazing thing is when you hook up things that aren't even Cradlepoint to the device, you can get to them even like through a iOS interface through NetCloud, right, David? I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can even show it if you like. I could take back over and show it.
Sure, yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and do that because I'm still in NCM. You got a question here. The GPS tracking that the bus system allows, does that apply to the homes as well? Basically, if a student moves a device somewhere, it can't be tracked via GPS for recovery purposes. Yes. The GPS is spitting out real-time information. However, the Cradlepoint NCM is not necessarily making heads or tails of real-time. In other words, turn-by-turn directions for a bus driver, no. You would have to go to an AVL solution like that, like Tracker or something like that. There's a few of them out there, actually several. However, more specifically to this question, if a student moves it or takes it somewhere, you can easily set up geofencing. So geofencing would allow you to then send an alert if the Cradlepoint were to be moved out of a certain area, and then you would be able to track it that way. And as long as it's online, you'd be able to find it. Even if they factory default the device, I mean, let's face it, people are smart, kids are smart. They took a paperclip and pressed the reset button and defaulted that device. It's going to delete everything except for the APN and the NCM credentials. So the minute it comes back online and has an internet connection, it's going to phone back home to NCM and pop back in, so you'll be able to find it again. I'm not going to say it's completely theft-proof, but it is going to give you a tremendous peace of mind knowing that you can track that device. Okay. All right. Does that answer the question?
It looks like we have a follow-up one.
Okay.
It says geofencing programmable by a home address. So example, if the device is moved more than 100 feet from the GPS location it was assigned to.
So it's based on a set of coordinates on a map. And I'll show that right now, actually, while I'm here.
Okay.
For example, let's take this IBR 900, okay? And let's go ahead and look at its GeoView.
We're not seeing your screen, David, are you?
Oh, it would help if I shared, wouldn't it? There we go. Seem to be having some sort of issue here. Interesting. This was just working earlier today. Well, let's go ahead and talk about Remote Connect for now then while that sorts itself out. In fact, let's just go ahead and reboot it while I'm waiting. So Remote Connect allows me to access third-party devices behind something else, okay? It's easy to set up, so I'm going to use this branch router here. As you can see, I've got several devices behind this, okay? Now, if I wanted to add something to it, we support SSH, VNC, RDP for Windows, obviously, HTTP, HTTPS, okay? As you can see, I've got a few devices. I've got a couple smart switches in there that are obviously HTTPS managed. I've got a Raspberry Pi Linux machine that's running as a DAC board, a digital calendar board that I can access the SSH of. I could also access its desktop interface as well using VNC. Obviously, RDP is not supported on Linux. And I've got another Raspberry Pi here as well that could also be used, but it's not on. It's somewhere else right now. To add something like this, it's relatively simple. You just click Add, You can do a DHCP scan and it'll come up with all the devices. If you don't see your device here, don't fret. You can always manually add it by just giving it a name, IP address, and the port based on, and then whatever protocol you're going to use to access it, okay? Once that's done, and we're gonna go simple here, we're gonna go ahead and connect to this web managed switch. Now it is a little slower because it is secure. It is a secured connection. So obviously there's a trade-off there. If you get a connection refused or connection error, go back, double check your ports and your IP address would be my suggestion. So once this makes its connection, it's going to, you should be greeted with your familiar web interface of whatever type of device this is. In this case, this is a little Netgear GS110, which is having a problem. I've had to reboot this little guy multiple times today. Let's try the other one. Make sure I'm connected to the right network here. And you can get to it. And while we're waiting here, there it is. Here she comes. So here is the login for my Netgear GS110 switch. Obviously a very useful feature, especially in the branch scenario where you have a router or firewall at a main admin building or a high school that needs to be accessed remotely by the staff or your IT staff to do any configuration changes or troubleshooting, anything like that. It certainly will save you a lot of money from having old-fashioned POTS telephone lines with a 14.4 28.8 modem, which are becoming increasingly hard to source. So this is an invaluable tool for that from that perspective. Just layer it into the cellular group plan that the school district already has, and go about it that way. Plus, you have pathway redundancy on the failover circuit as well, versus a secondary wireline circuit from an ISP, which obviously, as we know, can most times share the same physical pathway and conduit as the primary. So depending on the nature of the outage, you realistically don't have the redundancy or internet circuit redundancy that you thought you had because of that. So cellular obviously provides that pathway diversity and is going to get you a lot further and a lot more reliable for a backup circuit for the school as well. And then, of course, from a mobile standpoint, if you have that school that is issuing Windows machines, and they may need a little help, or even a Chromebook, which does support a remote desktop support. Instead of trying to find your way through a student's home router and expecting them to open up ports in their firewall, you're using the Cradlepoint device. You can obviously RDP into that desktop or Chromebook using the Chrome remote desktop method. So you've got a lot of flexibility for troubleshooting both faculty, staff, and student devices, as well as routers at the head end, routers and firewalls and equipment at the head end of the school. So that opens up a lot of flexibility indoors there as well. Any questions about this? Okay. Let's get back to our geofencing here. Hopefully my IBR 900 is one of the things I despise is saying, oh, well, yeah, I know this works, so trust me. Let's do this here. If not, I've got a 1700 I can turn on and go that route. I wonder if I did something here. Let's do this. So the beauty of it is I can always go into it and check my, it's there. Okay, that's good. Let's make sure I've got the right license. Yep, advanced mobile. This is good. GeoView. And she's on. Okay, there we go. So from here, I can set up a geofence if I wish. I can manually set this location. I can configure my geofence, and the minimum is going to be about 100 meters here. But let's say you could potentially see, say the school is over here, you could potentially expand that if you wish to quite a ways, obviously. So keep it at 100 meters. And then obviously within that realm, if you then needed to set up alerts for it leaving that area, you can simply go to alerts and logs, set up alerts, hit add, and you've got obviously for failover type stuff or pooled carrier data usage, you can set up alerts. But if you wanted to then set up your alerts for it leaving that area, go to general, geofence proximity change, hit next, choose your device, which is going to be a general IBR 1700, hit next. You want immediately. Yeah. You're going to choose the person or persons you want that sent to, hit next, and it's done. Okay. So now whoever is chosen to receive those alerts, they have to be an NCM user, even if it's read-only. They can get alerted to a proximity change within a 100-meter radius of its home area. Does that make sense? Okay.
All right.
Robert, I'm going to go ahead and go back to you then.
All right. All right. So out of band management, I think David kind of covered that a little bit too. Move on to the next one, network management, NetCloud. We kind of went over all that. So I think this last part is just if there's any additional questions that we haven't covered or any additional questions that you had more detail on, now would be a good time for that. If you do have questions and you don't want to ask them live or you think of them later, webinars at cradlepoint.com is an email that you can always use, or sales@bytespeed.com. Either one of those, if you email, can I use CARES funding? That's a good question. So absolutely you can use CARES funding. This aligns with CARES. In addition to CARES money, you can also use part of the same bill. They actually extended the amount of title money that you can use for things like Cradlepoint from 15%, which was the previous limit on infrastructure, to 100%. So you can use CARES funding and title funding for this. So that's a good question. And then we have another question. I would like to know what the education price is via ByteSpeed, as we have only seen the MSRP. Okay, so yeah, I can send you more information on that. When you get done with this presentation, there should be an email that you get, or a thing on your screen that pops up that allows you to ask for a quote or ask for more information. But yes, I have you down and I will definitely get you a quote. I'll probably reach out to you just for some more specifics, but I will get anyone a quote that wants to see it and the full breadth of it and what that looks like on paper. Also, you know, and we're definitely able to answer any additional questions that come up, but at any point, you can also reach out to David at dkobe@cradlepoint.com or myself, rogan@bytespeed.com. And thank you, David, for being here. Invaluable resource as always. I appreciate you. Everybody at Cradlepoint is amazing to work with. They're a great company, and we really appreciate their partnership. So I want to thank them again, and thank you guys for showing up. Everybody that was here, certainly respect your time. I know it's invaluable, and there are no additional questions. I would say thank you and be safe, everybody. And if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thanks for having us, Robert.
Thank you.